minutes of the November 24th, 2015 meeting.
Seifert seconds.
Roll call.
Dickman, aye.
Johnston, aye. Bekavich, aye.
Guzekowski, aye.
Seifert, aye.
Chandler, aye.
Okay, significant common council actions. Carrie.
There are none for this meeting.
All right, let's move right along to new business. 4A, we have a sign plan review. Review of proposed sign plan submitted by Paul Galbraith, Somerset Properties for Liberty Property Corporate Preserve Properties located at 10100 South 27th Street and 2440 West Corporate Preserve Drive. Carrie? Or Pete? You
I'll
got
take this one, and it's my first official meeting, I think, here.
Really?
Yeah.
Welcome.
So, just give you a brief overview. The applicant is submitting a master sign plan for the buildings located at 2440 West Corporate Preserve Drive and 150 South 27th Street, which is a different parcel than what we have on the agenda. Just wanted to make a note of that. According to city code, multi-tenant developments require a sign plan. There was a sign plan for South 27th Street. What did I say?
This is the wrong address.
Oh.
That's the one on the agenda.
Oh, the agenda is correct, sorry, have it backwards, reversed. As I was saying, the developer did submit a sign plan several years ago. This is an update to it. And what they will be doing is outlining the parameters such as size, location, design for the signs in this development. Future signs for this development will need to conform to this plan. And any variations to this plan will require the applicant to come back before a plan commission for any changes to the plan. It's a very detailed plan. It's in part as part of your packet, but in summary, the key things is there'll be one monument plan per parcel. The wall signs will be eternally lit signs, either with white or red LEDs. There'll be one wall sign per tenant. They should have a raceway or channel letter. And also that the end caps will have to have the option to place an additional wall sign on either the north or south elevation of the building. This is the main change from the previous plan that was brought before the commission, and is similar to the existing sign code. There are no signs shall exceed 100 square feet in area. If the plan commission is comfortable with this sign plan, we do recommend the plan commission approve the master sign plan submitted by James Deeman from the Liberty Corporate Preserve located at 2440 West Corporate Preserve Drive and 100 South 27th Street.
Okay, thank you, Pete. I did fail to mention Mayor Scafidi is indisposed tonight, so I will be chairing the meeting. Sorry about that delay on that announcement. The applicant, would you like to describe your project?
Yes, thank you for your time tonight. I'm Paul Galbraith with Somerset Properties. We own the two buildings in question on South 27th Street, and we are starting to see some activity in the front office building in particular. There's two tenants in there right now. There's the Air Force and Northwestern Mutual Life, and we have a significant amount of vacant space. And now that the market is finally coming back, and particularly lots of good things happening in Oak Creek, we have tenant interest. And what we wanted to do was to formally adopt this plan so that we can commit to tenants what we can offer them in terms of signage, particularly along South 27th Street. That's where most tenants would like to be identified as occupants of the building for obvious reasons. They may, occupy the back, what would be the eastern side of the building, but would like some tenant identification on the western side of the building. It's a great property. It's a very nicely done building, and this would allow us to, I think, take our efforts to lease it up to the next step. So we are hopeful for approval.
Thank you. I'll open it up to anyone else in the audience want to speak on the issue. Okay, we'll open it up to the commission. Wally?
I want to ask you, Pete, on item 4, which I kind of like there, where it says they have the option, the end cap tenants, to place an additional wall sign at the ends. Now, because they have that option, does that mean that as long as it meets our requirements, they do not have to come back to us, or do we have to look at it?
You're correct in that they would not have to come before the plan commission. This master plan will say that it is an acceptable option for end cap tenants to do that. In our code, it's always been an option, but they always had to come before plan commission.
Right,
so the thought is, as part of the master plan, potentially, I don't know how many end cap tenants there will be. Instead of having each end cap tenant coming before this commission, we'll just say, or the commission will say, that's acceptable, just at staff level to approve, making sure that they meet all sign requirements.
Okay, that's a good step forward, I think, yeah. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Wally. Fred?
Yeah, I have a question about the number of signs that they could have up there. If you're talking different number of tenants, right now you have 2, you'd probably put 2 signs. What if you had 4 or 5 tenants? Will we allow additional signs for that?
It varies, I believe, by building. On the building facing 27th Street, we're asking for 4 signs on the 27th Street side, on the east side, and 4 signs on the west.
So it's a total of 8 signs that you're talking?
It's a
Okay.
fairly large building. If we're lucky enough to have, just 2 large tenants, which would be our goal, obviously, we'd only put up a couple signs.
Okay.
Is that it, Fred?
Yeah, I just was curious about
Okay.
signs that we have.
Anyone else? We really don't have a buzzer system, so just kind of give me a ways. Chauncey?
In regards to the monument sign, can you provide a little more information? Is that just for the location and not to identify the tenants?
That's correct. The monument sign actually is already in place, and that will remain unchanged.
Okay.
It identifies the name of the project, and then the address is below, and I believe there's the
Okay. And is
Current
this sign illuminated?
yes, the monument sign is, yes.
Okay, and what color is the illumination?
It's white.
It's white. And for the tenant signs, individual tenant signs, those are also illuminated?
All in red,
Oh, those,
white and red. They would
Red
all
and
be
white.
consistent, yes.
okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Chris?
While this is in my district, I like the plan going forward here. It's well thought out, and I do appreciate, I've seen the activity going on in the building, so it's good to see some tenants in there. So I do like this plan, and I'm in favor of it, so thank you.
Thank you.
Chauncey again?
What are the size of the signs, the tenant signs?
Chad?
And they cannot exceed more than 100 square feet.
Oh, okay.
Correct.
So have they actually been identified,
The tenants, no, we have
Oh,
not
okay.
identified the tenants.
well,
It's-
for the 2 tenants that are there, the signage for them, for the Air Force
Oh.
and Northwestern Mutual?
I'm sorry, they don't have signage, and they are not requesting signage. This would be for new tenants coming in.
Okay, thank you.
Is that it from the commission? Dawn?
Would there be the use of the company logos along with the letters?
I'm Chad with Innovative Signs. We created the master sign program. I believe we have something in here, maybe you can support me on it, where if they have a company logo that is allowed, as long as it's within the 100 square feet, and the colors have to remain within the red and white application as well.
Okay, so it would match the channel letters,
Correct.
and it would all have to be, including the name and the logo would have to be within the,
Correct.
so some might have a logo and some might not.
Correct, yeah.
Okay,
If it's Aurora Healthcare, they have the Infinity logo and then Aurora Healthcare. So that would be, well, they have a teal as an example, but teal and white, but their logo would be along with that.
right, like Northwestern Mutual Life, I mean, that's a huge name, and they usually have their logo with it, so, whether it would fit. I just hate the idea that, some would have small letters, some would have big letters, that there wouldn't be a nice standard, uniform look to the building.
Well, honestly, the 100 square feet is a large sign, and there's a sign band area on there that pretty much limits it to about 24 inches tall at the maximum.
Okay.
And probably 12 would be the smallest you'd want to do. The good thing about 27th Street is that because you're not only seeing the signage from the southbound side of the road. Use the mic, please. Oh, sorry. You're not, because you're not on the east side of the, west side of the building, traffic traveling southbound is not that far away from the building. So you don't need a 4 foot tall letter to be seen. So 12 to 24 inches is about pretty consistent to fit in the sign band area on the building.
Okay.
There's a natural sign band area there. Does that help?
I also see though that, looks like you're going with, a sans serif channel letter and then, but for Liberty, so you're switching off the fonts? Cause then there's a serif font, so is there a consistency or is it going to?
Yeah,
As
we
far
didn't,
as-
we didn't call out a font, specific font on here.
No, right, but I'm seeing as in the examples of kind of these big, long, you know, kind of big channel letters,
Yeah.
and then, you know, the monuments, are they going to match more of what's on the side of the buildings? As far as the letter fonts?
You know, because we didn't call it a specific font, it's kind of, it's not going to match Liberty probably, because that's been there before.
Okay,
May depend on what the client would like. So
Okay.
we didn't really call out a specific font in the master center program.
okay, so then on the side of the building, it could change
It
for
could.
each name?
It could, yes.
Okay, so unlike what we see, where it's all the same font, and on the example, that those could change size and shape of the letters chosen. Just so everyone's aware.
I guess it depends who comes in, so.
Right, you just would hope that, right, that they are consistent with each other, especially versus, the color. That would hold its consistency.
Right. But if you have NML or if you have Aurora, they have a little bit different font style.
Right.
Still a nice legible text, not real thin, not too different. Yeah. Would you like us to call out more specifically a font style in here, or?
It just is, it's different. I just wanted to make sure that the other commissioners understood that
Okay.
it's not as if, you know, the drawing that we're seeing, it would be different. And there could be a logo then placed with it as well.
Okay. Anyone else, Brian? Nothing? That's it? Okay, I guess I'll just speak on my behalf. I think it's necessary. I think in this day and age, you need the advertising going forward. I think it's really a plus on 27th Street. I'm glad to see things are picking up.
Yep.
And again, if it helps, having that creative font or that style for a particular business, I'm okay having a little bit of variation versus everything just kind of block and blending in. You know, even the color doesn't really freak me out or anything like that. So I am in favor of it. If seeing no other questions, I'll look for a motion.
Trustee Dickman will make a motion, the Plan Commission approve the master sign plan submitted by Jamie Diamond for the Liberty Corporate Preserve located at 2440 West Corporate Preserve Drive and 10050 South 27th Street.
Seifert seconds.
Roll call.
Dickman, aye.
Johnston, aye.
Carrillo, aye.
Kokavich, aye.
Guzekowski, aye.
Seifert, aye.
Chandler, I.
Great. Thank you, guys.
Thank
Good
you very
luck.
much.
Happy renting. Next, we have item 4B, plan review. Review site and building plans submitted by Rick O'Connor, We Energies, for an office trailer, locker room, shower trailer, attached deck storage building, and pump house at 10770 South Chicago Road. Peter Carey. Carey?
This is a plan review request for a few buildings at the Elm Road Generating Station. This is in red on your screen, which is the one parcel where all of these structures will be located. At this time, I'd like to invite the applicant to come up and present their presentation.
Hi. Could we just get your name and
Yes.
address? I might have blew that on the last.
Yeah, my name is Richard O'Connor, and I'm a project manager with We Energies. Address is 7720 Milwaukee Avenue in Wauwatosa,
Thank you.
Wisconsin. Although I seem to spend most of my time here in Oak Creek at the power plant. I was here back in September of 2014 and had presented a project to you for expansion of the coal storage area. That project was approved. We also then went to the DNR for the permits and to the Public Service Commission for those permits, and that project has started construction and is approximately about 50% complete. What I'm here tonight is to request approval of several smaller auxiliary buildings that are associated with that project. In the first building that I'd like to talk about is a proposed office and locker room, and that can be seen in red. If you look at the drawing here, everything in blue is what was approved at the previous meeting, and the items in red on this drawing are what we're requesting approval for tonight. So at the bottom of the drawing, it says proposed office and locker rooms. This essentially is two modular buildings or trailers, and what that would house is there are 9 to 10 employees that operate the coal handling equipment that we're putting in. So that would be the showers and locker rooms for them, as well as some office space. If you could step back to the first drawing. What we also have to the right on this drawing where it says proposed warehouse, that's a 40-foot by 60-foot warehouse. It's a metal-clad siding, metal roof on that warehouse. And what that warehouse will be utilized for is storage, mostly storage of parts for the coal handling equipment, various shafts, various motors, gearboxes.
You say repair parts?
Repair parts, correct. Yep, for operations and maintenance of the equipment. We can step back to the first drawing, please. And the last structure that we're requesting approval is the proposed pump house. That's over on the left side of the drawing. And what that pump house is utilized for is there's a concrete drainage channel that runs around the outside of the coal pile. And that collects any rainwater that comes off of the coal pile. It runs to a pond that's on the left side of the coal pile. So that pump house takes that rainwater that comes off the coal pile and sends it to our wastewater treatment plant. And also housed in that pump house are several pumps that we use for dust control on the coal pile. That's a quick summary of the projects that we're requesting your approval on. If there are any questions on any of the details.
Go ahead, Wally.
On that pump house, I was a little surprised because that was put in now and not, put in the original plan because of that, because of the concrete that you had around that area there. Is it something that just came up as a new need you found out, or was it always planned to be there, come in later?
It has always been planned to include a pump house. We did show on the original drawings that we put forth back in 2014, we did show the pond, the basin, and the drainage channel. We didn't particularly call out that box that showed the pump house. We hadn't developed any of the details of that pump house at that time. But since we were coming back here and requesting approval of the warehouse and requesting approval of the storage trailers, which were later adds, we thought we should include that pump house to make sure that we've, been clear on all of the structures that would be at this site.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Mr. Chairman? Mr. Dagner, you wish to speak?
Yes, it bothers me that.
Can we get your name and address, Arden? Just, the deal.
Arden Degner, 8540 South Pennsylvania Avenue. It bothers me that here we have a premier, long-time occupant of Oak Creek wanting to put in trailers? Please explain, is this just a temporary, it looks to me like you're going to have them permanently for this. Well, why are you using trailers, such a temporary structure?
It's an excellent question. They're modular buildings, essentially trailers, and they will only be there for until the end of 2021, so about 6 years they'd be in service. We have contracted with an entity that's part of Detroit Edison, DTE, and they'll be doing the operation of those coal handling facilities for that particular period of time. When they're done operating that equipment, they'll remove those trailers, and we'll no longer need those.
Any other questions? Dawn, Wally, you still on?
Oh, no, I'm sorry.
Okay.
Let me get it off there.
No other questions?
Bef-
Chauson?
Can you provide a little more information, Carrie, on temporary trailers for 6 years? Is that possible?
In the discussions that staff had, these are not considered temporary, which is why they're going through those site plan review process. Understand that they will be removed in a certain amount of time, but anything that lasts for as long as this, as, especially with a foundation, they're not considered temporary for our regulating purposes. So that's why it's before you. I did want to call out just one thing for the Plan Commission to consider, and that is that all of the structures that are being presented do not meet the architectural standards for building materials. In other words, they're all going to be constructed of metal. So that would be something that would require a 3/4 majority approval of the Plan Commission this evening. And the staff recommendation is for approval with condition that all building and fire codes are met.
I can add to that, Chauncey, too, is when the original construction back in '05, there was 24 trailers or more side by side during the construction process. It's pretty common on a site like this, so it's not unusual. And we worked up a pretty good fire plan over the years through that process whenever they're down there. So it's really no issue.
Thank you.
Fred?
Yeah, do we need any fire protection inside these buildings at all? Tom?
Well, first off, we prevent the fires from starting, Fred, so that's the first thing. But no, it's a typical trailer and combustibles and normal firefighting operations, from extinguishers to, the usual first aid that We Energy provides and for our response. Nothing unusual. Nothing like there's construction trailers probably sitting around here.
Yeah.
It's a construction site.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else? Brian?
Are there any restrooms or anything in the buildings?
Yes, in the trailers, one of the trailers is, has restrooms, has shower facilities, and the other trailer is office space.
Do you have a utility plan for how you're going to connect those?
We do,
water, or-
yes.
Okay. We'll need those with the
All
building
right,
application.
we can provide those.
That's it.
That's it? Anyone else? I guess I'll give my commentary. As far as the trailers go, trailering, a good word for it. I don't want to call it a mobile home, but actually people run out of these things like their offices. There's computers, there's Wi-Fi hookups, the whole deal. Very common, as Chief Rosendich said, within the construction industry. And again, it's 6 years depending on the project. And they also kind of keep them this way in case they have to be moved on site, in case they reconfigure the conveyors for whatever particular reason. So I have no heartburn whatsoever there. As far as fire protection goes, We Energies is probably one of our best corporate citizens as far as working with the fire department, OSHA standards. They're probably a leader within the city on their safety record within all means. So I have no doubt that they'll do it and they'll do it right. So I am in full favor of this. So, anything else, guys and ladies?
I got one more question.
Yep, go ahead, Fred.
In the motion, do
Yes.
we need to specify the time limit as far as how long they can carry this?
I would say no.
I would say
No?
too.
Why would we not put some time limit on a temporary?
Because it's not a temporary use request. This is a site plan review. This would allow them to have that time frame, and if they go over, they go over. This is something that is of minimal impact to the surrounding areas because of the location that they are going to be in. And if the project runs over, then, it's like a temporary trailer that if a construction site were to, or a construction project were to go over, the trailer would just remain there for the duration. So I don't think that we need to put a time limit on it.
Correct. And I guess I got one more comment, just regarding the architectural standard. Given this particular circumstance, how far it sits off the road, its particular use, the industrial nature of it, I have no qualms whatsoever about approving that either on a 3/4 majority. So, anything else? Okay, looking for a motion. Purkevich will make a motion that the Plan Commission approve the site and building plan submitted by Rick O'Connor, We Energies, for the property located at 10770 South Chicago Road, with the conditions that all building and fire codes are met.
Dickman, second.
Roll call.
Dickman, aye.
Johnston, aye.
Bekavich, aye.
Guzekowski, aye.
Seifert, aye.
Chandler, aye.
Excellent, thank you. Good luck with your project.
Thank you very much.
Item 4C, we have a temporary use permit. We're going to review the request for an expansion to an existing temporary use permit submitted by Maria Corner, Webco and MP Systems, doing business as Peeper, for temporary outdoor storage and materials storage on the property located at 9,000 South Nicholson Road. Carrie, or Pete.
We're doing a little tag team tonight.
I see
We're
that.
alternating
All right.
reports here. The applicant is requesting approval an outdoor storage yard located at 9,000 South Nicholson Road through November 30th of 2016. Just a reminder, back in January of this year, the exact same temporary use request was asked of this commission at the same site for We Energies to do some work in the area, and they use this as a lay-down site. Crews come in, crews, come back, they come in, take their equipment, go to the site, end of the day, they come back, unload, repeat Monday through Friday. And so the applicant is wishing to continue the same use, the same hours of operation at the same site. And so just to quickly summarize, it's in your packet, but, the equipment stored will include job trailer, dumpsters, porta potties, bucket trucks, pull trailers, stringing wire, and possibly 2 to 3 personal cars. In your plan, in your report, they do have a site plan showing where they intend on storing the equipment. They're not changing the location of this equipment on the site. As I mentioned earlier, they'll be operating from 6:30 to 7:15 a.m. to be loading their vehicles, and then they go to the project site. They'll return around 4 p.m. to unload and prepare for the next day. There's no intention of working on the weekends. And so far this year, I have received no complaints regarding this tenant at that location. Having said that, staff recommends that the Plan Commission approve the temporary use permit for the outdoor storage of equipment and materials in the specified locations as illustrated on the site plan until November 30th, 2016.
Okay. Would the applicant like to make a statement? No? Okay. All right. Questions from the commission? Jossie.
I have a question. What are the details on why you would like the extension?
There are additional projects that we're doing in the area along Nicholson Road, as well as additional pole replacements. So it just makes the travel time easier for the crews, and for safety reasons, we like to keep everything close.
Thank you.
Wally.
Yeah, I just want to ask a question. You have a date here for November of 2016. Is that adequate, or you think you need more time, or do you think you're going to fit well within that time period?
Unless, my name is Maria Kerner, and my home address is 3210 Fence Line Road, Franksville. According to my sources, that should be more than adequate, but unless additional projects come up in the area, additional funding, then
Okay.
we may need to extend it further. It is a property that's bank-owned, so a lot of this is tentative if the bank does sell the property.
Oh, okay. Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Yeah.
Anyone else? Mr. Verhalen would like to speak. Almost forgot you, Mark. And you even wrote it down for me.
How could you forget me? Mark Verhalen, Alderman for the district. I was one that requested that they come back to extend the use because it did expire in November. So far, they've worked really well in the neighborhood, no complaints from the neighbors up and down the road. They've adhered to all the rules that were put out for them, so pretty much no complaints.
Great, thank you. Before we make the motion, I'm just, on my behalf, I'm a former employer of Peeper Electric, and I'm going to abstain from the vote just for the fact we had a profit-sharing program. I may have something hanging back there I'm not aware of. So, and I'll just err on the side of caution, and I'll abstain on this one. So, okay, with that, I guess we're looking for a motion.
Seifert moves that the planning commission approves the temporary use permit for an outdoor storage of equipment and materials in a specified location as illustrated on the site plan until November 30th, 2016.
Chandler, second.
Roll call.
Dickman, aye.
Johnston, aye.
Kavich abstains.
Guzekowski, aye.
Seibert, aye.
Chandler, aye.
Great. Let's move on to 4D, rezone and conditional use permit. Review and request submitted by Drexel Partners LLC to rezone the property located at 600 West Drexel from M1 Manufacturing to B2 Community Business with a conditional use for a 2-tenant retail and restaurant building with a drive-through facility. Nobody's got their light on, Carrie.
I got this one. As the chairman did mention, this is a rezone and conditional use permit request for the property at 600 West Drexel Avenue. I just want to let everybody know that restaurants with drive-through facilities are considered conditional uses in the B2 zoning district. On your screen right now is a concept plan showing what the 2-tenant building is proposed to look like at this time. Anticipated hours of operation are 5 a.m. to 10 p.m. Monday through Friday and 5:30 a.m. to 9 p.m. on weekends. Tenants, delivery times, employees per shift, and building details are currently in development. Other than dumpster enclosures, no outdoor storage or display of merchandise is proposed at this time. One thing to draw your attention to are parking requirements. General retail and sales and customer service requirements are 1 stall per 150 square feet of gross floor area of customer sales and service, plus 1 stall per employee. Drive-through restaurants require 1 stall per 50 square feet of gross dining space, plus 1 stall per employee. The proposed number of stalls is 32 in the site plan currently. I will note that the applicant is currently engaged with the city in discussions that could potentially increase the size and shape of the current parcel. It may change the size and number of tenants of the building. Once that happens, though, this would have to come back to the Plan Commission for site building landscaping plan approval, so that just to be aware. But while we don't know who the exact tenants are going to be, it's difficult to determine the exact number of parking stalls that would be required, because we don't know the exact dimensions of the space that would be for dining or for customer service. But with that in mind, staff does recommend approval with the current number of proposed parking stalls. And again, as I said, site building, landscaping, lighting, all those reviews will come back to the Plan Commission at a later date once the process moves forward. The staff recommendation is that the Plan Commission recommends to the Common Council that the property at 600 West Drexel Avenue be rezoned from M1 Manufacturing to B2 Community Business with a conditional use for a drive-through facility after a public hearing and subject to conditions and restrictions that will be prepared for the Commission at the next meeting, which is January 12th, 2016. Mr. Chairman.
Great, thank you, Carrie. And as the applicant here, could you approach, please? And just state your name and address for the record. And if you have any comments you'd like to say on behalf of your conceptual proposal.
Sure. Jason Luther, 7116 West Wells, Wauwatosa, Wisconsin. What we're proposing is really as Carrie had mentioned, a 2-tenant building. We feel fairly confident with the tenants at this point, but they're at the conceptual letter of intent stage, so we can't disclose those at this point.
Understood.
From a parking standpoint as well, I think what we have established is will work for those tenants based on the square footage requirements. So we do plan to come back in the future for site plan approval. But in terms of one of the tenants, the reason we're asking for the conditional use as well and the rezone is for the drive-through aspect of what their business is.
Okay, thank you. At this time, commissioners, questions? All right, Wally.
Yeah, obviously. When I hear the word drive-through facility, first thing that jumps into my mind is another fast food type restaurant. And
I can't answer.
well, I'm just saying that's
but-
what I always think of. And I know we've heard a lot of comments from our citizens that we've got a lot of fast food restaurants, and how many more do we need? Could we have more sit-down type fancy restaurants? And so my question was that if this were just changed to community business and not the conditional use for a drive-through facility, that could be done also, is that correct? I know that's not what you want, but I'm just pointing it out.
What the application is for the full approval. So if the Plan Commission doesn't approve of the drive-through, then that would have to be part of the, that would have to be either part of the motion or part of the vote.
Okay, I'm not saying it's wrong or right, I'm just trying to bring out the facts, that we have had a lot of fast food restaurants in the city. Okay.
Okay,
Yeah,
that's
I'm
it.
sorry, go ahead.
Fred?
Yeah, I have a question about the drive-through. Do you have any idea how many cars a day that you'd be having going through?
We
Is
don't
this-
have volume numbers
You
at
have
this
no
point,
idea
no.
at this time?
Correct. I think their peak hours will be likely in the morning, but it would be spread out throughout the day as well.
Because I'm looking at that intersection along with Drexel Town Square, and, you look in the morning, and then you look at the 5 o'clock. If you have 400 or 500 cars going through at 5 o'clock, let's say, you could create a little traffic problem
The nice
in
thing,
that intersection.
we have that right in, right out that onto Drexel that I think presents a nice opportunity for our flow as well. So we're not putting all the traffic right back on the intersection itself. I think we can benefit from that curb cut that exists just a little bit west of the intersection.
Okay. I just see it could be a potential problem at, the 5 o'clock in the evening.
I don't think, again, likely to, the
Right.
tenant that we're talking to likely would not have a 5 o'clock
Okay.
evening business. That would be a strong aspect of what they do.
I guess any business could run that risk on that particular corner, but, you done, Fred, or you got more?
Yeah, I'm done. I just,
Okay, yeah,
thought
just
bring
appreciate
that
it.
up.
Anyone else? No? I guess I'll add it in, again, it's conceptual, it'll change with what the tenant really wants. I think the one advantage, I understand Wally's fears, we grappled with the drive-through issues, Drexel Town Square, and boy, we really had some headaches with some drive-throughs around here, but I think this particular lot's probably laid out probably better than most I've seen for, if that's what it's gonna be. I can't really think of other uses for drive-throughs other than maybe the pharmacies like Walgreens, things like that. But again, I think I'm in favor of moving it forward so you can further explore this business. And again, you'll be back before us. So with that, if there's nothing else, we'll look for a motion. And I guess I'll do that. Bukevich will make a motion to approve. Yeah, I got messed up. To review a request submitted by Drexel Partners LLC to rezone.
Mr. Chairman, would you like some assistance?
Yeah. How's it? Okay. You know what? The Plan Commission recommends to the Common Council that the property at 600 West Drexel be rezoned from M1 manufacturing to B2 community business with conditional use for a drive-through facility after a public hearing and subject to the conditions and restrictions that will be prepared for the commission by the next meeting, January 12th, 2016. Better?
Seifert seconds.
Roll call.
Dickman, aye.
Johnston, aye.
Gavich, aye.
Guzekowski, aye.
Seifert, aye.
Chandler, aye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next, item 4D. Again, a request submitted by Matthew Lyons, Azura, for an amendment of time compliance section of the existing conditional use permit affecting the property at 8760 South Mayhew Drive. Carrie.
The request is to extend the existing time of compliance section as mentioned by the chairman. This project was for the CBRF on Mayhew, and if you'll recall, this was a two-phase project. The site plan that was approved by the Plan Commission is on your screen at this time. The conditional use permit required commencement of operations for Phase 1 or construction of Phase 1 within 12 months of council approval and within 36 months of the approval for Phase 2. And the council approved this on January 20th of this year, so we're running into that expiration date really soon. The staff recommends extending the deadline for Phase 1 to December 31st, 2016. Phase 2 would be required to begin within 36 months of the date of adoption, essentially not changing anything for Phase 2 other than just from the date of adoption of the amended conditional use permit, which again would have a deadline of December 31st, 2016 to begin Phase 1. Staff recommends that the Plan Commission recommends to the Common Council approve a conditional use permit amendment extending Section 11, time of compliance, to a deadline of December 31st, 2016 for Phase 1 for the property located at 8760 South Mayhew Drive after a public hearing and subject to conditions and restrictions. Mr. Chairman.
Great, thank you very much. Would the applicant come up? Welcome back. How have you been?
Good.
You just want to give us a brief little history on the extension?
Sure. Matthew Lyons with Azura, 3190 South Wadsworth Boulevard, Lakewood, Colorado. Essentially, we have plans in place and we've been moving forward with our general contractor and that sort of thing. As often happens, budgetary constraints and that sort of things have kind of delayed us. We were planning to start in the summer of last year. We're hoping to now start in spring of 2016, but just wanted to ask for an extension through the end of the year to make sure that if there's any other further delays that we're covered from that end, but do plan to start construction here as early as possible in 2016.
Great, thank you. Commissioners? Nobody? Okay, seeing nothing, then we'll look for a motion.
Okay, Dickman will make a motion. The Plan Commission recommends that the Common Council approve a conditional use permit amendment extending Section 11, time of compliance, to a deadline of December 31st, 2016 for Phase 1 for the property located at 8760 South Mayhew Drive after a public hearing and subject to conditions and restrictions.
Johnston seconds.
Roll call.
Dickman, aye.
Johnston, aye.
Kavich, aye.
Guzekowski, aye.
Seifert, aye.
Chandler, aye.
Great, thank you, good luck. And last, we have item 4F, temporary use permit request submitted by Sharon Dull for a private bus service storage yard at 6819 South Howell Avenue. Pete?
Thank you.
I'm catching on to that light thing, you know.
Yeah, I figured that might be our cue now. We receive the mic's on, that's the one who's going to present. As the chairman described, that the applicant is requesting a temporary use permit to operate a private bus service storage yard where buses will be parked and maintained on the property at 6819 South Howell Avenue. Just want to bring up the point that this is typically a conditional use in the M1 district. So we do have bus companies are currently in our M1 districts today. The bus company plans on storing between 20 and 25 buses outside, as illustrated on the map included in your report. It is illustrated on the map that the applicant appears to want to show bus parking on an unpaved surface. The applicant has been informed that parking of vehicles is required to be on a paved surface. So they will need to figure out how to configure their lot in order to do that. Also, the applicant will be have employee parking. You can see on the map, the red is the buses, the green is the employee parking, is located in front and behind the existing fence line that's there. The yellow marking there is the proposed screening that they would like to put on, or actually between Building C and Building B is what they're proposing to do, is put a screening on the fence so you don't see the buses from Howell. Staff recommends adding additional fencing to the north of Building C to the lot line and have that screened as well, so it would be further screening any buses from Howell Avenue. It is anticipated that there will be approximately 11 employees during business hours with a maximum of 30 employees at any one time. Because of this business, only about 50% of the workforce will be at the site at one time. The office hours will be from 7 a.m. to 5 p.m. My understanding is 7 days a week. Bus cleaners will be working at night from 5 p.m. to midnight. Bus route drivers will be working as early as 5 a.m. to as late as 10 p.m. And they do have charter drivers, and they are on a as-needed basis, so their hours vary quite a bit. Just to give you a little idea of how the building was used before, it was JD Trucking Service. They did truck engine repair. You remember they had the big blue building in the front along Howell Avenue there? Just to give you a kind of a mental picture of where that is. B is that big blue building. To go in alphabetical order, Building A, the big one, that's where they'll be doing the bus washing and bus maintenance, and their office will be run out of there to operate the bus company. Building B will be intended to use strictly as cold storage. And Building C and D, which is a house and garage, will be used as a residence as it currently is by the property owner. One of the things that I mentioned earlier was the screening for the fencing. The applicant at the time has not submitted any sort of materials and is looking for guidance from this commission as to how opaque the fence needs to be. And by code, the Plan Commission has the authority to determine how heavily screened a fencing can be. And so they're just looking, the applicant is looking for direction as what kind, slats, windscreen, we've seen those. I don't know if there's any other material that is out there right now. If the applicant is here, he can definitely speak up tonight and then suggest what we're going to talk to a fence contractor to see what was available out there for discussion. One last point I'd like to make is to accommodate employee parking. They would like to park both in front and behind the fence. Currently, the rules for the previous business was everything needed to be behind the fence except for one U-Haul truck. So staff has some concerns about the amount of parking that they show on their site plan. However, if the Plan Commission is comfortable with any sort of employee parking on the east side of the fence, staff recommends limiting the amount of employee parking to the south part of the property in front of Building B and not to extend beyond the house to the north. So that's kind of the Mason-Dixon line, so to speak. Ideally, we'd like to have every vehicle behind there, but the applicant can definitely come up to the podium and provide a rationale as to why there would be parking needed in front of that fenced-in area. Also, I'd just like to mention that this is a temporary use, and any decisions made by this commission doesn't bind any future requests for this type of use on this site. And the reason I mention that is the applicant, or not the applicant, but the bus company, if this site works out, may, come before you to ask for a conditional use amendment to allow for this bus company to operate here. And I just want to make sure the commission is aware that just because we allow a temporary use here doesn't mean necessarily a full-time use of a similar use may be appropriate. That would be determined at a later date, but I don't want you to feel that, you're binding future decisions by your decision tonight. With that said, staff recommends to the Plan Commission that Plan Commission approve the temporary use permit for the operation of a private bus service storage yard to be used for the outdoor storage and maintenance of motor coaches in specified locations as is illustrated on the site plan with conditions 1 through 4.
Great. Thank you, Pete, for that explanation. Very good. I guess, is the applicant here?
My name is Eric Lenz.
Oh,
My
just
name
an
is Eric
address.
Lenz. I represent Sharon Dull, the owner.
Okay.
And she's actually selling the property, and the temporary use is just until after we get over the environmental issues, when they will close on the sale of the property. So the appropriate people are probably back here that you want to talk to,
Okay.
what their operation's going to be.
Thank you, sir. If you could, just maybe a short explanation on the parking and your feelings on the
Sure,
fence screen.
Sure. David Meyer with Badger Coaches in Madison, Wisconsin. First of all, we have really wanted to be in Oak Creek for quite a while. We operate currently in Madison and Milwaukee. Our operation in Milwaukee is located downtown on 635 North James Lovell. It's a very old building. It's not sufficient to our needs. Our buses are 45 feet long. They don't fit in our building anymore, so we've been renting space down by Potawatomi Bingo Casino, and just does not make for a smooth transition between bus pickup and cleaning and things like that. So we've been looking for quite a while. And we've had our sites on Oak Creek for a long time, and when we found out that Sharon was making her site available, we jumped on it immediately. We definitely want to be good neighbors. We're a very well-established bus company. My grandfather started the business in 1920. Right now, we have over 600 employees. Most of them are in Madison. We have about 30 over here in Milwaukee. Our company is very well respected in the industry. We have a lot of friends across the country. I think we're very well known for how we maintain our buses, our professional drivers, how courteous we are to customers. Also, right now, I want to introduce Doug Fosno. Doug would be the general manager and he is the general manager of our entire Milwaukee operation. Doug has been with the company for 26 years. Doug's father worked for our company for 35 years, and his mother worked for the company for 30 years. So Doug knows our business and the bus industry very, very well. As far as questions about the day-to-day operation of the business, Doug would be the best person to ask. Like I said, we really want to be good neighbors, and we know this is just temporary use. We hope we can prove to you that we'll be good neighbors. We're going to provide a lot of jobs for this area. I know right now Sharon shut down the business a number of months ago, so there's no employee activity, no business activity going on. And we would bring in, very well-maintained, beautiful buses, high-paid jobs, 30 positions. We would expect a lot of our employees would probably eventually want to move down to this area. So, we're very motivated to do a good job in the meantime, and hopefully we'll earn the right to have a permanent use permit and close on the property when the environmental work is done, hopefully in a few months. And our intention is to close on the property as soon as the DNR issues the site closure letter. We expect the remediation would last 60, maybe 90 days, and then another 30 days to get the site closure letter. So we would hope to be in position to close by spring. And so that's why we think the temporary use permit would be enough for us to take ownership of the property, and hopefully by then we could get a permanent permit with you guys. So anyway, Doug, here's any questions you have about the operation.
My name's Doug Fosno. I live at 7612 South 70th Street in Franklin, Wisconsin. Like Dave said, I've been with Badgers for 26 years. My parents both worked there. Some of my kids have worked there part-time, so it's kind of a family business, just like it is in Madison also. We've been in Milwaukee looking for properties in different locations probably for the last 20 years, and every time we just keep fumbling where we're at downtown Milwaukee. Our buses are kept approximately 2 miles from where our station is. So for management purposes, buses in one place, operations in another. The wash crew has to drive every bus every night 2 miles to wash it, drive it back down to the gravel lot that we put it on, which is not good. Then we take a clean bus into a gravel area and it's dirty. So when you take it to the customer, you're already kind of dirty that way. So we're looking for a permanent location, obviously now just being temporary to see what we want and, operate our business with maintaining and cleaning the buses.
Okay, great. Wally?
Okay, question. This is strictly maintenance and storage, but do you have pickup points around this area, or are you expanding out this way, or what's going on?
We do pickups anywhere the customer wants, and we do a lot of, we do a line run Milwaukee-Madison, which originates at Mitchell Field. So we are just, we'd be 5 minutes down the road from Mitchell Field to do pickups and stuff there. We do a lot of work for Potawatomi Casino. We do routes. We have about 60 routes a week. We do the majority of them are south, so this location is close to the freeway. It's close, to jump on 94 and head south toward Chicago for the pickups. Charter service, we go anywhere. We do work for Oak Creek High School. We've been to the community center. We do work for them. So any place around, that requires charter service, we're one of the providers for that.
Okay, thank you.
But we would not be using the site as a
No.
pickup and drop-off point for passengers.
No, that
No,
wouldn't
no,
be
this is strictly the,
Right.
the maintenance and storage, I agree.
Right,
Okay.
just
Is
operations.
there any thought in the future on that?
Of picking
Just,
up there?
yeah, having a number of kids that have rode that bus throughout the years, picking up at the airport and everything else is kind of a pain in the butt. I'm just wondering if you're any intent that in the future that this would be a pickup and drop-off point for the customers? Just as
Yeah.
as a customer, you know,
Space.
something to think about.
That's something that we've never discussed about that because of our locations that we have, you know, the airport, downtown. Right now, we have a bus depot there. If we no longer operate there, we'll probably be at the intermodal station. So we're trying to keep that stuff easy. Problem here we would have would be parking. You know, if people come to park their cars, to ride the bus, to do stuff like that, there'd be no place for them to put cars. You know, they could get dropped off and picked up would be a scenario, but we wouldn't have the location to,
Well, much like you do in the Union in Madison, if you cut a deal with METC, might be an option for you.
right.
Well, that's exactly right. I mean, the buses have wheels, and we can pick up people wherever they want to go. So we listen to our customers, and if there's demand for a pickup service somewhere, you know, maybe around this beautiful site around here, we certainly are all ears, and if there's a business case to be made for it, we'll certainly consider it.
Great. Wally, you still on? No. Okay. Anyone else? Chauncey?
Carrie, can you provide, or Pete, provide a little more information about the additional fencing that was recommended?
There currently exists a fence south of Building C down to the lot line behind Building B, where that yellow line is. The applicant's looking to put screening up there. Staff felt that, you know, looking at the site plan, that it would be a good idea to extend fencing to the north of Building C up to the north lot line and screen that as well. To continue, I mean, you got some, 45-foot long buses you have back there. We think it would limit the visual impact along Howell Avenue if we included screening to the north. And at the time, I don't know if you guys had a chance to talk to your fence contractor about different materials that could be used, but it's up to the commission if they want to be 100% blocked, or do you want, you know, 80, 70. If you recall, we did that with Green Man on Nicholson, and they put up that green windscreen. Also, the Granite Company over on 27th Street, we did that, trying to do windscreens. You know, there's some concerns, you know, you have about maintenance and maintaining those, and how well does it really actively screen. So, you know, what would the commission like to see it screened 100%? I mean, when you put slats in a you know, wire fencing, I don't think you're going to get 100%, but to give the applicant, you know, an idea of what it is, what level you want, they need that direction so they can go to their fence contractor and says, we need something that's 75, 80% opaque. What materials do we have? And I think, is that what you're willing to do? I hate to, you know, speak that way, but, you know, if the commission were to say 85% opacity, do you feel comfortable going to that and having that discussion with your contractor to meet that requirement?
Absolutely.
Sure.
Yeah. And one of the good things about the site too is it does slope from front to back, so when you're on the road and you're looking down the property, it's already kind of naturally blocked anyway.
And it's also wooded, kind of completely around the north and south side. So if you're driving down that road, unless you're physically looking that way, you're not even going to see any buses back there behind the building number B, the garage C, and also the house. You know, you're not going to get much of a glimpse of a bus back there at all.
So what are your plans for the additional fencing? Are you going to add that? Is that a possibility?
That's up to you.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, as far as the shield, yeah, we'll certainly follow any recommendations that you guys would have for us, but in general, you know, these buses are very expensive, and we really are proud of them, and so we will definitely shore up any of the fencing in the area, make sure they're secure, safe. We don't want any vandalism and things like that, so we, you know, eventually would, you know, probably upgrade the fencing around the site as well.
Okay. I don't know who went
Go
first.
ahead.
Chris, go ahead.
Okay, no, I just want to remind everybody that Howell Avenue, how fast the traffic moves on there. So, I mean, it's not that you're gonna be sitting still looking in, you know, it's gonna be a quick glance as you're going by. So certainly, you don't need it 100% opaque. And also, if you did, you still have a factor of the wind flowing through there. You want to be able to let the wind go through so it doesn't act like a big flag or something, you know, so. Okay.
Okay, Brian?
Yeah.
Just wonder if the applicant has any concerns with the parking being behind the house frontage? At least from your map you here, you're showing about 20 parking stalls if you lose those in front of the house.
Right.
And reconfigure things around here a little bit. Is that
Yeah.
an issue for you?
No, it's not an issue. I mean, basically, when we looked at the site, you know, we looked at the front, knew we couldn't leave our buses out there. We just thought it was a place to separate the vehicles from the buses. Because when you move a 45-foot bus around that space, you know, it's just less chance for somebody to ding somebody's car. So we thought it was a good place to put them there where they're safe and secure, you know, and we wouldn't have a bus cleaner at night coming around and it's dark, not seeing a car, turn a corner too tight and kind of scratch it. So we were just trying to separate that out.
How about keeping the buses parked on paved surface? Does that limit anything for you?
No.
We prefer it.
Yeah, I would prefer that.
prefer the paved.
Definitely.
Yeah, but because of the time of the year, we would not be able to, we'd have to wait till the spring to
And until the
to make that.
environmental stuff is taken care of, we wouldn't want to repave it now, dig it up
Yeah.
to do that. So once we get the all clear there, then we could go ahead with the paving.
Okay.
But I would prefer that whole back area paved.
Okay.
Chauncey? You going? Oh, Chris, sorry.
I think this is a good use for this property. I think having Badger come would be a good asset to Oak Creek. I think one of the things that my concern is on the fence. I would like to see as much opacity as possible. While I realize you're on Howell Avenue going fast, you probably won't see it. But I think I already get the feel that you guys want to have a nice decor and setting. So I have no doubt that you're going to come up with a solution here. But are we talking cyclone, or are we talking
Well, that's
wood,
up,
or are we talking?
that's up to us. And
So
we-
that's kinda where I'm
We can
going.
set that, so.
And then will you need a gate?
Currently, there is a gate there. Behind Building C, there's a chain link fence, a gate that pulls across to secure that property from the back. So if that one, we could put the slots in, and then whatever you guys decide for the rest would be fine.
Okay.
We can get some recommendations from a fence contractor and see
Yeah,
what they usually would recommend
I
for our
myself,
use.
I'm a fan of the slots. You already have the Cyclone, why reinvent the wheel? Just do a nice job on the slots. The slats, that's me, but, we'll see what the rest of the commission has to say. Chauncey, are you going?
Yes. So what would be the maximum quantity of buses on site at any time?
At any time, currently, right now in the Milwaukee area, we're running 20 buses. I would think maybe moving in the future, possibly up to 30 that would be there. The key with a lot of these buses, some of them go on extended trips, so a bus comes in and we may have, you know, spring of the year, most of our buses are in Florida, you know, doing school trips and stuff. So a lot of times, we may say we have 30 buses there, but there may be 15 or 10 on site, depending on the workload.
So because you have a large quantity of buses there, what are your security measures that you have planned for the site?
Basically, the lot itself, it does have the fence there, so we would obviously close and lock that fence. First one in the morning, open it, last one at night, close it, stuff like that. We plan on security cameras, just for stuff, you know, for internal in the building and also external.
Yeah, really upgrade the lighting as well.
Yeah,
We would really want to secure the area. I believe the fence is in pretty good shape right now, I'm just going off memory, but if it needs to be repaired or replaced, we would definitely do it. We would have a very large investment sitting right back there, and we want it to be protected.
And an additional question for Pete. You identified, it may have been a couple months ago, that we also addressed the opacity of the fence for another person or company. What did we choose for that company? Was it 75, 70%?
I believe, recalling discussion, we didn't give a percentage.
Oh, okay.
They suggested they would put up a green windscreen, and the commission at that time thought that was adequate material. I can share with you, we've had issues with those businesses adequately maintaining them, especially after a windy day. It seems that they do get beat up pretty good. So I would think that a windscreen attached to the fence would probably not be something I would recommend, just because of having to follow up with businesses saying, hey, your windscreen's falling apart, put it back up. Something a little bit more durable would be something I would recommend.
Thank you.
Okay. Dawn?
Just to be clear, the yellow line is an existing cyclone fence
Yes,
with a gate.
yes.
Except for north of, behind C.
Behind C is a permanent fixture there.
Okay.
I believe.
Okay, so it doesn't go the whole distance?
No,
Okay,
it
so we're adding that little bit behind C?
I think C is adding, I think we're adding.
Is there a fence
You're
behind
adding
the
C.
garage? There is
Yeah,
not.
so
Okay,
that's
so
what we're
that's
adding
what we would be adding then.
Yeah,
Okay, so you'll add some cyclone fence, and then it goes through the entire duration in the back of it?
Yes.
It's all fenced in?
yeah, it's all fenced around the back, yep,
Okay.
perimeter.
So, and because of the foliage, we don't have to necessarily worry about screening the back. And so we're looking at just the yellow line.
Right.
A
The
little
yellow
bit of
line,
new
and
and
you could probably do a
existing.
little bit around that
Yeah,
corner
It's all wooded all the way
if
around.
it's open.
Okay.
Very wooded.
Okay, and then, the movable, and then there's a movable gate.
That's
must be
behind
right next
building
to
B,
C,
yeah,
so you can go
behind
right
B
in.
there. It
Okay.
kind of pulls back and then it pulls across and covers the driveway.
Okay. Okay.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. Wally, you're up again?
Yeah, I was just wondering whether, when we talk about the type of screening, what we want to put, the amount of opaqueness, et cetera, whether we should really let the Pete work with the the people that want it done, and let he come up, because he's got the most experience. You've seen him, and you know that Granite place over on 27th Street has been a total disaster back there, and I certainly would not want to see those big bands. So I mean, we need something there, but we need something that is not affected by the wind as much, because that's what does the damage. So I was wondering if we could leave it between Pete, and these guys to work out how much opaqueness.
No, I agree. I mean, we're not experts on fence material, but I don't want to speak for all of us, but I'm with Wally. I don't like the windscreens. I would not recommend that. I voiced my opinion. I think slats are adequate. That's up to you guys. If you think that you can still look through that or whatever you're going to do, it's up to you. If not, we'll task Pete with that.
Are you?
Yeah, Pete.
In the report under condition 1, we talk about install screening on existing fencing and extend the screened fencing north of building C to the lot line. That is what we've been discussing about, that we'd be adding to the section to the north, and then the screening material. I would recommend that just give that percentage of opacity. If you wanted to be 100% blocked, that gives at least the applicant direction to work with the fence company, saying, what can I do? Or say, if you don't want to do 100%, because that's basically, a privacy fence.
Yeah.
That's why I originally threw out the 85. You want to go 85 to, put a range, 85 to 95% opacity. What's nice about that, if I can see through that sign, or through that fencing, I'll give them a call. All right, talk to their fence contractor, tell me, all right, what is that percentage of opacity? How did you come to that? If I can see clearly through that, I don't think that really meets that percentage. There's that number that I can use to work with both the applicant and the contractor, instead of saying windscreen or slats or whatnot. Let's just work with a percentage of opacity. That's on the
Gotcha.
books. If you need to use wood, slats, fiberglass, PVC, whatever the material is out there that they can use for fence screening, let's let the owner or the applicant work with the fence company to reach that percentage.
Okay, you're saying.
Everybody got that?
Yeah, you're comfortable with 85% based on your experience, is that what you're saying?
Well, I just think that, the 100%, then you're
No,
asking for a wood fence.
Yeah, no.
That's about the only thing that's going to meet that 100%. So that's why, the 85 to 95, it's going to be mostly blocked. You may see it when you're driving 50 miles an hour down Howell Avenue, you get that little, interesting view of, you can kind of see a peak if you were moving, but if you stand still, you can't see. So that's why I say the percentage, that's enforceable. And we're not dealing with materials or product, and then I don't have to,
85 or greater.
have to work with that.
85 or greater is what I would recommend.
That would be great.
Okay. Everybody, we're good.
Well, would you
Fred?
add that to item one, or?
Yeah, add that, you
Just
know.
tell you how you
installs-
want to do it.
Yeah, install 85% opacity, or screening with 85% opacity on existing fencing and extend screen fencing north of Building C to the north lot line.
Fred?
How much is the fenced-in area blacktop? Is that totally blacktop, or is it half of it, or?
All except all the way to the west, the very extreme west end of the lot where we have that one row of buses, that's kind of gravel back there. But if you take from the building, where the building comes out, it comes a little bit to the west, and then to the north, that's all, and the east of that building is all blacktop. So it's a small portion.
Just a small portion, figuring, what, 75% is blacktop?
I would say it's so, wouldn't you, from that
I would say
picture?
pretty close to 75.
Okay.
Not more than 75, but 75 would be a close estimate, I would think.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Brian, you look like you're studying pretty hard down there. Anything? No. Nothing? Okay, with that, we can look for a motion. Oh, so that,
No, Brian's going to do it.
Brian, you got it?
Sure. Johnson moves that the Plan Commission approves temporary use permit for the operation of a private bus service storage yard to be used for outdoor storage and maintenance of motor coaches in specified locations as illustrated on the site plan with the following conditions. 1, that install a screen on the existing fencing and extend screening fencing north of Building C with 85% or greater opacity to the north lot line. 2, employee parking stalls located along the southeast part of the property closest to Building B in front of the fenced area will not extend further east than the house as shown on the modified site plan. 3, all motor coaches must be parked behind the screen fence and on a paved surface. And 4, permit expires May 8th, 2016.
Seifert seconds.
Roll
Can I
call?
interrupt before you
Yeah,
make that,
that's what I
make
thought.
that final roll call? Brian, could you just clarify your motion in number 1, that the full length of the fence would be 85% or
Yes,
greater?
full length of the fence would be 85% or greater.
Thank you.
Okay.
Roll call.
Dickman, aye.
Oh, wait.
Does the second concur?
Oh,
I'm good.
Okay.
Okay, Dickman, aye.
Johnston, aye.
Gavich, aye.
Guzekowski, aye.
Seifert, aye.
Chandler,
Excellent. Thank you. Welcome to Oak Creek, guys.
Thank you.
Hope it's a long, prosperous relationship.
Us too.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Before we adjourn, I'd just like to make a couple announcements. December 12th is the official dedication of the new City Hall. It kicks off here at 10 a.m. There'll be tours of the library, City Hall. We're going to have some of the high school jazz bands down here. Festivities will be going on all day. We invite everybody in the public to come down and see your new City Hall and participate.
Dedication is noon.
And, what's that?
Dedication ribbon cutting at noon.
And the dedication ribbon cutting will be at noon, but festivities start at 10 a.m. So all are welcome. We hope to see you down here. With that, we can adjourn if somebody could do that.
Grillo moves to adjourn at 7:16.
Guzekowski seconds.
Roll call.
Dickman, aye.
Johnston, aye.
Grillo, aye.
Kavich, aye.
Guzekowski, aye.
Seifert, aye.
Chandler, aye.
Thank you.